Hello and welcome to LSTV1. You're watching the news in English. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Amie Fadera and these are the headlines from the Standard newspaper. IEC AG tells court to dismiss Sabali's appeal. Panjai Girigara reboots Dabo, tells him to shut up all. Victims deny contesting to release of junglers. On the international front, hundreds flee to Uganda after their Congo rebel attacks. South Sudan forced withdrawal from VP Masha's home. Egypt and Morocco joined Israel talks. Rwanda wants more funds to keep troops in Mozambique. These and more other stories coming ahead your way. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now the news in details. We begin today's news with IEC AG tells court to dismiss Sabali's appeal. The Independent Electoral Commission and the Attorney General's Chamber have asked the High Court in Banjul to dismiss the demands made by UDP aspiring candidate Mamadou Sabali that the Electoral Commission squash its rejection decision and accept his nomination papers to enable him contest the April 9th National Assembly elections. Lawyers acting for the IEC and the AG's chamber on Friday filed affidavit opposing Sabali's appeal. The IEC denied Sabali's assertion that the recommendation of the Janneh Commission does not contain any banning order or any specific reasons. The IEC maintained that it did not misapply Section 90, subsection 1E of the Constitution, which disqualifies individuals like Sabali from contesting National Assembly elections. The decision of the IEC in rejecting the nomination of the applicant Sabali pursuant to the relevant constitutional provision as manifested in the report of the Commission of Inquiry and Government White Paper is not wrong in any manner as claimed by the applicant, the affidavit stated. It is also contended that Sabali's claim that the Commission did not take time to examine his papers thoroughly on nomination day was totally false and misleading. The applicant is not entitled to the relief sought at all, and this honorable court ought to dismiss same in the interest of justice. It is a frivolous and vexatious application and an abuse of process of this honorable court, the IEC urged. Sabali had stated in his appeal that the IEC returning officer failed to furnish him with a tangible reason for rejecting his nomination papers. But in its affidavit of opposition, the AG's chambers stated that the IEC had informed Sabali that he was not qualified to be nominated to contest as a member of parliament as a result of the findings of the Janneh Commission banning him from holding public office in the Gambia as a result of his financial dealings with former President Yahya Jammeh. The report of the Janneh Commission of Inquiry found the applicant liable of facilitating theft of public funds and as such recommended that he be banned from public office for life, the affidavit stated. Panjai Girigara reboots Dabo, tells him to shut up all. Businessman and NPP supporter Panjai Girigara has responded to the UDP leader Usain Dabo's denial that he gave him $1 million in return in the run-up to the 2011 presidential elections in exchange for a promise of a ministerial position. Mr. Njai made the claim mid-last year, and in an interview with the Standard last Friday, Mr. Dabo described the allegations as raving and ranting he would not want to edify with a response. Nonetheless, he went on to explain that among other things, Mr. Njai has grips with him because he refused to succumb to Mr. Njai's underhand attempts to get his wife reinstated at Mega Bank. But Mr. Njai maintained that he had gave the big box to Mr. Dabo and has a document in his possession signed by both the Mr. Dabo and the UDP executive member Ibu Mane confirming the deal. In a further exposition in an audio sent to the Standard, Mr. Njai said initially he intended to give the $1 million to any coalition that emerged between UDP, NRP, and DOI in 2011 election, but that Mr. Dabo, as the leader of the biggest opposition party at the time, rejected Halifa Salah's proposal for a convention and aborted the chance of the emergency of a unified coalition. So I then turned to Mr. Dabo as the leader of the biggest opposition party and told him about the availability of the $1 million in return for a ministerial position for someone I would recommend and not myself. Mr. Ibu Mane is aware of this and had signed the document along with Mr. Dabo, Njai said. Mr. Njai said he will make the document available to those who deserve to see it, even though he is not keen on publicly publishing it yet. But if President Adama Barrow wants to see the document, I will be pleased to give it to him, Njai said. He also denied or ever discussing his now defunct West Telecom company with Mr. Dabo and therefore could not have asked for Mr. Dabo's favor to supply Gamtel with call cards as claimed by the UDP leader. Victims denied contesting to release of junglers. The Gambia Center for Victims of Human Rights Violations has issued a statement on behalf of its members saying they did not agree with the decision of the release two members of the junglers kill squad as implied by the Gambia Armed Forces. The statement released during the weekend explained prior to the press release by the Gambia Armed Forces on the 17th March 2022 informing the public about the release of two junglers, the Victim Center was invited to a meeting held on the 16th March 2022 at the Gambia Armed Forces headquarters. We were informed that the Gambia Armed Forces, in consultation with the Ministries of Defense and Justice, had decided to release on bail the army officers or junglers who had been held in custody since 2017. The Armed Forces representative argued that the continuous detention without trial of the two junglers was against the law and their rights violated in the process. Hence, he emphasized the need to release them on bail pending the release of the government white paper due on or before 25th May 2022. The Victim Center delegation expressed disappointment at the timing of the release of the junglers, especially when the white paper is about to be released. The center expressed concern that the timing of the release could also be interrupted as a strategy to free the junglers, especially considering the long delay by the government in taking the junglers to court. The center further raised fears as to whether the two junglers and those who were released earlier on will not jump bail or fail to appear when they are needed for prosecution. The chair of the meeting and the Armed Forces representative gave the delegation all assurance that they would be monitored closely and would be reporting on a weekly basis to the police station to ensure their presence in the country. The Victim Center and other victim-led organizations had a press conference on the 19th March 2022 on the Sanasabali issue and to further clarify their position regarding the release of the junglers by the army. Gambia says it will always stand with China. The Gambia's Foreign Minister Mamadou Tangara said relations between the Gambia and China had developed steadily to make them the most reliable and strongest partners after having gone through ups and downs. Speaking with the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi on the sidelines of a meeting of ministers of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation in the Pakistani capital, Islamabad, on Wednesday, Minister Tangara affirmed friendship with China is the firm political decision of the Gambia. We will always stand with China and adhere to one China policy, and there will be no change. In response, Minister Ying said Beijing will continue to support the Gambia's development and the improvement of the people and its livelihood. Delayed apprehended two Senegalese nationals with a canoe package packed with prohibited drugs. Operatives of the Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the Gambia, delayed stationed at the Barra in North Bank region, apprehended two Senegalese nationals with a canoe packed with suspected cannabis sativa. 44-year-old Dauda Yande of Mbour and 18-year-old Keba Cham of Kampanchum in Senegal were clutched with 50 big bundles of suspected cannabis sativa at the bench site in Barra on the 27th March 2022 around 10 a.m. onwards. They said suspected prohibited drugs were wrapped in cement papers and placed in a canoe that was to be used to convey the prohibited drugs. The duo, together with the 50 big bundles of suspected cannabis sativa and the canoe alongside with the canoe engine, were taken into custody as further investigation into the matter continues. Government-sponsored Gambian students in Morocco optimistic at new path to learning. Having arrived at the Kingdom of Morocco on the 28th February 2022, Gambian students under the Moroccan Scholarship for the academic year 2020 to 2021 to pursue undergraduate courses have expressed optimism at their new path to learning. This was after an intensive 6-month French course at Alliance Francaise, which was a requirement for students before commencing their undergraduate programs. I will say all praise be to God for giving me this opportunity to finally reach in Morocco in peace. It is an exciting and wonderful experience to be in a country with a different culture, tradition, climate, environment, and language, said Muhammad Kande, an economic student in Morocco. The students were accompanied by Senior Assistant Secretary and Secretary to the National Scholarship Advisory Board of the Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, Ms. Mange Jaite. According to Ms. Jaite, her mission was made very easy by the Gambian Embassy in Rabat, Morocco. When we arrived at the terminal gate, the counselor at the embassy, accompanied by the president of the Gambian students in Morocco, came to receive the new students, said Ms. Jaite, adding to the embassy had already made available apartment for students to lodge before their departure to various institutions of study. And now to our last story on the national news. Candidate dies 14 days before election. The Gambia for All party candidate contesting for Kiang West seat in the upcoming National Assembly election has died exactly a fortnight before the poll. Lamin Jai from Kiang Jifarong died on Friday, 25th of March 2022 at Edward Francis Moore Teaching Hospital in Banjul after a short illness. Following his death, the party issued a statement extending condolences to the Njai family at Jifarong and the party's supporters in Kiang West and the Gambian nation. This sad news is extended to the entire party membership, supporters, sympathizers, and well-wishers in the Gambia and abroad. May Allah grant him high abode in paradise, GFA stated. That's it for the national news. Let's take a quick break, and when we are back, we continue with some international stories. Please stay with us. Welcome back, and now to some international stories from the BBC African News website. Hundreds flee to Uganda after DR Congo rebel attacks. Hundreds of Congolese have fled into Uganda following rebel attacks on their homes. Officials in North Kivu province said M23 fighters stormed Chazu and Rioni villages. The Congolese army base was reportedly attacked. Eyewitnesses say there has been fierce fighting between the rebels and government troops. The M23, which is mainly made up of ethnic Tutsis, used to be a major fighting force in eastern DR Congo, seizing the regional capital Goma in 2012. In a letter, engaged in talks with the Congolese government, but says its demands have never been met. The UN had previously accused Uganda and Rwanda for supporting the M23 rebels. South Sudan forces withdraw from VP Machar's home. Relations have soured lately between Riek Machar and President Salva Kiir. South Sudanese security forces on Monday morning withdrew from First Vice President Riek Machar's residence in the capital, Juba. His office has told the BBC. Mr. Machar reported to his office on Monday and was working normally, according to his press secretary, Puvok Both Bluang. The security forces had been deployed to Mr. Machar's residence on Saturday evening. The vice president's office is later expected to issue a press statement on the matter. Security forces condoned of Mr. Machar's house after he had issued a press statement rejecting President Salva Kiir's directives on the formation of a national army, a key pillar of a peace deal with peacetime in 2018. Mr. Machar had accused President Kiir of not equally sharing out positions in the military and the police force as stipulated in the peace deal. The unilateral decision by President Kiir is a violation of the revitalized peace agreement and is a clear rejection of the ongoing mediation process, he said on Saturday. President Kiir's office has not yet commented on the matter. Egypt and Morocco join Israel talks. It makes their commitment to a new relationship with Israel. A summit bringing Israel together with Egypt, Morocco, and 2 other Arab countries is taking place in the Negev Desert in Israel. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is also taking part in the meeting, which is expected to focus on the revival of the Iran nuclear deal and the war in Ukraine. Foreign ministers from Egypt and the UAE, Morocco, and Bahrain have traveled to Israel for the event in a sign of their commitment to a new relationship with Israel. They have commended the attack on Sunday in Israel, in which 2 police officers were killed. Rwanda wants more funds to keep troops in Mozambique. Rwanda says its troops will be in Mozambique as long as necessary. Rwanda wants additional funding to keep its troops in Mozambique's troubled northern Cabo Delgado region, where they are fighting Islamist militants. A 100-strong Rwandan force was deployed to the region last year and has since recaptured many villages and towns from the militants. The Rwandan High Commissioner to Mozambique said they had asked the Ethiopian Union for financial support for the troops to bring situations in the region under control. We asked for assistance from partners like the European Union, which is considering our request, and we hope they help us. And the 2 countries have many friends, and we believe they want to see Cabo Delgado safe and stable. He said there were visible improvements in areas recaptured by Rwandan troops. We have established our areas like the district of Palma and Masinkombwa, the Praia. We are waiting for the Mozambican government to make a decision and see if the population can return. He said there was no deadline for Rwandan troops' presence in the country. Okay, viewers, that's it for today. But before we take your leave, let's take a quick recap of the main headlines. IEC AG tells court to dismiss Sabali's appeal. Panjai Girigara reboots Dabo, tells him to shut up all. Victims deny contesting to release of junglers. On the international front, 100 flees to Uganda after DR Congo rebel attacks. South Sudan forces withdraw from VP versus home. Egypt and Morocco join Israel talks. And Rwanda wants more funds to keep troops in Mozambique. Okay, viewers, that's all the news we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Do join us by 3 p.m. for the news in Wolof. Until then, stay tuned and enjoy the rest of our programs. Bye for now.